bring you this headline story now. The country's biggest movie theatre is limping. Stir Kinekor is entering voluntary business rescue with the hopes of facilitating its rehabilitation. The cinema house, with about 55 outlets across South Africa, says the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated restrictions on international distribution have had them operating at a loss for several months now. Stir Kinekor says the continued lack of content for the next 4 to 5 months means that the business is now heading for further operational and cash flow challenges. It's hoping the business rescue process will act as some kind of safe harbor as it tries to return to profitability. Stir Kinekor says cinemas will remain open, though, during this process. Now, in a related matter, the closure of entertainment retail company Musica is signaling another step towards the growing online entertainment consumption space. Owner Clicks announced this week that Musica will close all remaining outlets over the next 4 months or so as consumers move to online buying of music, games and movies. Let's help you place this now and understand perhaps how consumers are taking to online shopping for their entertainment. We'll bring in columnist, art and features writer Percy Mabandu, who joins us via our video link. Mr. Mabandu, thanks very much for your time. Welcome to the program. You know, many people are saying for the first time, COVID-19 is being used as a scapegoat here because shops like Musica have been in trouble for a while now. Would you agree with those people?
Yeah, this is true. I mean, I think the business model has needed some tweaking for a while. Patterns of consumption of music has changed. In fact, I mean, one could argue that Musica, Top City, and a great many others, who businesses of this kind have been tweaking their business model for a while. I mean, Musica, for instance, had moved into the gaming space as well, in selling more games and gadgets more than they were selling CDs. So the business model has needed a bit of tweaking for a while, and I think this is inevitable. I'm not sure where to from here for them. Remember, they're not the first one to tank. I mean, we've seen a lot of mom and pop shops sort of tank, and Look and Listen is gone. Top City itself is gone. So there's a lot of businesses of this kind that have sort of gone this way a while back already. So I think it's not a COVID-19 thing. I think it's a business model that is come to an end. I mean,
Right.
think about when last did you buy a CD yourself?
I mean, that's the question I was asking earlier on because I'm trying to deflect, but it's a good point and it's
Yeah.
at the heart of the conversation. But, amongst readers, you hear people often saying, no, I want to touch my book. I want to feel it. I want to run my fingers through the pages. There's a whole lot of sentimental value being placed in having things, even though there's a digital alternative. Do you think that
Yeah.
exists for stuff like CDs?
Look, I mean, it's funny that we're talking about the decline of record sales. We've seen, I think, it was 3 years ago when the sales of vinyls for the first time had surpassed the sale of CDs. So that the novelty buying of records itself has been on the up, compared to CDs and so on. So whilst for the general consumption of music, we've seen that people have taken to streaming sites like Apple Music and so on. We've also seen the increase in vinyl sales. So in that way, you can compare the book or the fascination with the object of a book with that of a vinyl in that sense, because people are looking for something much more tangible. In any case, I actually feel like the vinyl is how God intended music to be listened to at home.
That's interesting, especially because shops like Musica were always thought to foster a certain culture, right? A lot of people will say,
Yeah.
no, man, it was more than about the CDs. It's to go there and that's the place where you'd listen to new music, for instance, as a community. And that's part of the beauty about music, the fact that we get to share it. That option online doesn't necessarily exist because it's just people in their silos engaging with whatever content
Yeah.
they have.
No, this is true. I mean, for somebody who also writes about music a great deal, I insist on having liner notes. I mean, one of my biggest, gripe with a lot of our local musicians is the bad way in which the CD cover, when it comes out, is the bad way in which it's designed, because it doesn't have enough information in it that I require when I buy a CD. So that One of the reasons why I buy original CDs is because I get a lot of information beyond just the sound that I'm buying. There's information about rights to the music. There's a whole story. Often writers are contracted to write kind of interpretative text that accompany the music. Apple Music has tried to accompany those onto their offering, but they're often lacking, and not all of them have it, so that they haven't seen it as a value add that's necessary. And for me, that has also hit my experience with streaming. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a journey that we're still traveling. But the truth is that when we're buying records, we're buying much more than the sound. And you're right also to point out the communal nature of the music. I have a very big collection of CDs, but it's rarely activated in the same way than when I have friends over and I take out my records and we're sharing. So that communal kind of thing is what gave the meaning. There are record shops which sold. I mean, I remember there was a record shop in Victoria, in Brooklyn, the Salon, which specialized in high instrumental music, high art music, so that opera, classical music, and jazz. And they would offer you a couch with an espresso and really good headphones where you before you buy you could actually listen. So it was kind of an experience going to buy music. There's a kind of value add. They also tanked because of the changing nature and of which the changing nature of the way in which people consume music they buy.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the dying of record shops like Musica is also accompanied by the dying of live venues. We've just talked. We were just talking about the closure of places like the Orbit in Johannesburg,
Right.
which kinds of also leaves music consumers in a very bad state. And worse for wear also are musicians who finding themselves in an increasingly precarious situation. Maybe as a sort of a related issue, there's a report that was just put out that almost two-thirds of people who work in the music industry in South Africa might quit the industry by end of this COVID experience. Now, when you compound that issue with the closure of Musica, the closure of venues, I think the situation is even much more scary.
Absolutely.
Especially, I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the profits or lack thereof from streaming, so downloads were paying musicians less than they were getting when they were selling CDs, and streaming, services are paying musicians less than they were getting from downloads. So increasingly, musicians who are people who are at the center of this whole process, they're getting less and less of share of the pie, and I think that's something to worry about.
And it's something that's completely unsustainable, dare I add. They say change is inevitable, but some things are a bit harder to accept. Thanks very much for your insight. Really appreciate it. That's a columnist and features writer Percy Mabanda joining us there via our video link. Percy, thanks very much indeed.